Inside a huge open grave, a guy wakes up, unable to remember his name and surrounded by piles of bodies. All he finds in his pockets are some keys and a lighter, but none of this is of any use at the moment and he needs to find a way out of there. Suddenly, an unknown young woman throws him a rope and, before he climbs up, he finds a revolver among the bodies and grabs it. After climbing out of the grave, he can't find the young woman who saved him and searches for her in the forest, until he finds a mansion with the lights on. When he breaks in, he finds a group of people, one of whom, called Lucas, is pointing a shotgun in his direction. He asks who it is, but the guy doesn't remember and doesn't know how he ended up in that grave. Lucas doesn't believe it and the two of them point their guns at each other, until Nathan, another member of the group, falls to the ground and starts to feel sick. His colleague, Sharon, quickly gives him a glass of water and manages to stabilize him. Afterwards, she explains that none of them remember who they are and only know their names, because of the identities they found in a bag. Lucas is of German origin and is leading the group. Michael, Sharon and Nathan are American. And finally, there's the young woman who helped the guy out of the grave. However, as well as not knowing the girl's name, she can't speak and doesn't understand their language. Finally, as the guy doesn't know his identity either, the group call him John Doe. After the introductions, tempers flare, but Lucas says he doesn't trust the newcomer because he's the only one who came from the grave. John doesn't care and decides to investigate the whole house, looking for answers about his identity and what's going on. Meanwhile, Lucas goes to change in the bedroom and the young woman sees that his arm has a stain on it, as if something had been applied to his body. She also has the same mark and Lucas asks her what happened, but before she can answer, John calls her into the kitchen. He shows her a calendar stuck to the fridge, with the 18th day of the month marked in pen. John asks what it means and the young woman tries to explain, but again she is interrupted when Michael calls everyone into the living room. When they get there, they find several guns in a cupboard, as if someone had left them in the house on purpose. Michael picks up one of the pistols and, to everyone's surprise, he manages to put the ammunition in it and cock it easily. Michael can't explain how he did it, but the group theorizes that he might be a trained policeman or military officer. Now that they're armed, John suggests that they leave the mansion and look for clues in the surrounding area, but Lucas is against the idea and says it's better to leave during the day. Everyone supports the plan and Sharon takes the newcomer to the bathroom so that he can clean himself up. She also gives him medicine to treat the wound on his arm, which appears to be a bite wound, and gives him some new clothes. John thanks her for the gesture and finishes getting ready, when Michael shouts to tell everyone that the girl has run away. Left with no choice, Lucas calls John and Sharon to go after the girl, as she is the key to finding out what's going on. The three then head into the forest, where John begins to have visions of the past, in which he is pulling the body of a young woman with a scorpion tattoo. Even so, he just ignores the visions and keeps searching, until he finds some bodies, tied to trees with ropes and wires. Back at the mansion, Nathan goes to the library and, while leafing through one of the books, he manages to read a passage in Latin. Not only that, he also discovers that he is fluent in French and realizes that the entire library is focused on books about medicine and biology. Michael suspects that Nathan may be the owner of the mansion, as he seems to know all the books kept in the library. The two of them continue to investigate the place, while Lucas, Sharon and John find an old cabin in the middle of the forest. Inside, they see the young woman feeding an old woman, who is tied up with ropes. On seeing John, the old woman advances towards him, but he knocks her down with a blow and then realizes that there is a camera inside the hut. This only makes the situation even more suspicious, as it seems that everyone is being watched inside the property. Sharon brushes this aside and suggests taking the woman from the cabin with them, but John refuses, as he believes there is a reason why she is tied up inside. The group then leave her at the scene and return home, with John continuing his investigation inside. Suddenly, he finds a locked iron door and tries to open it with the keys in his pocket, but can't. Shortly afterwards, Nathan appears, telling him what he discovered in the library and having the feeling that he knows John and Sharon from somewhere. The guy, however, doesn't remember him and tries to open the door again, but Nathan suggests he did tomorrow, as everyone has already gone to bed. The next day, the group decides to set off in search of vehicles to get out of there, with Lucas ordering Michael to stay and protect the house. The guy gets angry because he believes he's the best shot on the team and, to prove it, he throws a cup in the air and manages to hit it with a shot. However, this only makes Lucas even angrier and he stands by his decision for Michael to stay. After the discussion, the group leader, together with Sharon, John and Nathan go into the forest, where they find more bodies tied up and fences around the property. In the meantime, Michael is with the young woman and, although he doesn't understand her words, he says that he should have gone along to help. In the middle of the conversation, Michael hears screams coming from another part of the forest and runs to investigate, leaving the young woman alone in the mansion. Back with the group, Nathan starts throwing stones around the woods to see if they attract any animals or people. One of the stones ends up hitting something metallic and, when they go to investigate, they find 2 vehicles hidden under branches and tarpaulins. They hurry to get the vehicles back to base, without suspecting that Michael is no longer there. He continues to follow the screams in the forest and ends up finding a seriously wounded man trapped in the fence wire. He's all bruised up and begging for help, so Michael does his best to get him off the fence. Unfortunately, the guy was just pretending and, in a surprise attack, he uses the wire to trap Michael and then finishes him off by driving a stake through his neck. Unaware of this, the group tries to start the vehicles, but they are running low on fuel. Lucas also finds a photo in the trunk of the car of the whole group together, except for John. This only makes him more suspicious of the guy, and he warns him that there's no way he can take the cars, as there's not enough fuel for one trip. Lucas then sends the rest of the group back to the mansion, but on the way, he meets the girl, who is looking for Michael. The group then sets off in search of him and finds him almost lifeless in front of the guy trapped in the fence. However, it's too late and, without hesitation, John pulls out his revolver and shoots the guy caught in the wire in the head. As he does so, more memories return to his mind, where he loads and eliminates more people, who seem to act as if they were zombies. John soon pulls himself together and tells the group to go back to the mansion, because there's something wrong here and they need to get out of there as soon as possible. In addition, he remembers the date marked on the calendar, which is the next day, and fears that something bad is going to happen. The group continues to argue, but the girl stands next to Michael's body crying, as if she had known him since before this incident. Finally, Lucas and Nathan decide to help her bury Michael, while John and Sharon take one of the cars and try to start it. As soon as they succeed, they come across a building, apparently abandoned. Sharon goes to investigate the place and, when she looks in the mirror, she sees a young man running away. John sees him through the crack in the wall and, on seeing the guy's face, the young man calls him Jonah and warns him that someone is coming after him. John doesn't recognize the boy, but is intrigued that he called him Jonah and asks for answers. Far away, Lucas, Nathan and the girl return to the mansion, but the leader of the group begins to feel ill. Like John, he also remembers events from the past and feels a strong headache coming on. The young woman tries to help him and, for a moment, he seems to recognize her, but then he starts pulling her arm very hard. Nathan stops him before he hurts her and Lucas comes to his senses, but the young woman is upset and doesn't understand what has happened. Still, Lucas is ill and, from his symptoms, Nathan deduces that it is some kind of infection, just like that of the woman who was hiding in the hut. He then asks the girl to take him there to see if the symptoms are the same. However, when they get there, the woman has managed to escape from the cabin, but Nathan follows her tracks and finds another house, surrounded by more bodies. While exploring the place, Nathan finds glasses lying on the ground and, when he puts them on his face, it awakens the memories in his mind. As for the young woman, she returns home and meets Lucas, who says he knows who she is and goes after her. The young woman runs towards the iron door in the hallway and, with her key, enters the attic and hides inside. Lucas tries to force his way in, but can't, so he leaves the house and looks for another way. Outside the mansion, Lucas finds the door to the basement and, entering, he sees an experiment room full of brains in one of the reservoirs. At the same time, Nathan enters the house and finds the woman from the hut hugging the body of a girl. He soon deduces that it is her daughter and the woman sets out to attack him, but Nathan manages to dodge and locks the door. However, outside, more infected people surround the place and run towards him like zombies. Meanwhile, at the mansion, Lucas finds a camera in the basement with a video recording showing John experimenting on guinea pigs. Lucas and the young woman were also victims of the experiments, which had side effects such as memory loss and severe headaches. In the meantime, John tries to break down the door to talk to the boy, but the young man threatens him, saying that he will release his guard dog. This angers John, who tries to shoot the chain to open the door, but is stopped by Sharon who, like the young man, calls him Jonah. She acts as if she has met him before and, it seems, they have been very close in the recent past. However, neither of them can explain this connection and they decide to leave the boy behind and go back to the mansion. On the way, John says he has the impression that his real identity has done things he regrets, but can't remember. Sharon says she feels the same way, but the conversation is interrupted when a tree is thrown in the middle of the path. John manages to stop the car just in time and goes out to investigate who did it, until he comes across a group of lumberjacks cutting down the trees in the forest. Sharon finds this very suspicious and asks them to return to the car, but John decides to call them anyway. The man soon realizes that he has made a mistake, because all the lumberjacks are infected and run after them, axes in hand. During the escape, Sharon stumbles to the ground, but John quickly picks her up and carries her back to the car. The lumberjacks are getting closer, and worst of all, the car doesn't work and John is forced to push it. Sharon tries to start it, but the infected are getting closer and closer, and soon John will be the next victim. However, the lumberjacks stop running and, looking back, John sees 2 more infected, stuck upside down in the trees. He deduces that the 2 were scarecrows, and this helps to keep the infected away. Although they don't know who did it, the pair put it aside and rush back to the mansion. However, when they get there, John meets Lucas, who points a shotgun at him and says he saw everything on the camera recording. John tries to justify himself, saying he doesn't remember any of this, but Lucas hands Sharon the camera to watch the recording. In addition, he shows the mark on his arm, proving that something was placed on his body by John, and, when Sharon looks under her shirt, she also finds the same mark. Once again, John insists that he doesn't remember anything, but Lucas doesn't want to hear any explanations and knocks him unconscious with a gun butt. Minutes later, John wakes up being dragged by Lucas, who takes him to the open grave and forces him to jump in. Among the bodies of the victims, John finds the body of the same young woman with a scorpion tattoo. He remembers fighting her, and his visions also show him interacting with the other members of the group. While trying to understand his memories in the mansion, Lucas tells Sharon and the young woman to follow him out of the forest. However, he seems to be getting worse and starts acting strangely towards the 2 women. Sharon finds all this suspicious and tries to push Lucas away, but he knocks her down with a shove. The girl then runs for the iron door, but this time she can't lock it and the guy follows her, but she knocks him down with a kick. Nevertheless, Lucas gets up and pulls her down the stairs. The young woman tries to get rid of the guy, but can't, so Sharon grabs the shotgun and orders Lucas to let her go right now. She shoots at the guy, but he manages to dodge and runs off into the woods. Afterwards, the girl runs back to the grave, where she finds John and throws him a rope, saving his life. After climbing out of the hole, John decides to go after the young man in the abandoned building, as he is the only one who can give him answers. However, when he arrives at the hiding place, the young man isn't there, and, while investigating everything, John finds a map of the area. This reminds him of more events, where he delivers a cooler containing medicine to someone. However, his memories are scrambled and he can't make sense of them, and his concentration is interrupted when he hears shouting in the distance. When he goes to investigate, he finds 2 more infected, a young man banging his head against the wall and a woman lying on a stretcher. She had stolen John's car keys and he asks for them back, but the infected woman tries to attack him, forcing him to shoot her and take the keys back. After that, John takes the car through the forest at night and finds the boy from the hideout, along with his mother and sister, who has also been infected. In addition, nearby there is a car that has crashed into a tree, eliminating the driver and dumping his cargo on the ground. John once again asks the young man how he knows his name, but the boy's mother points a gun at him. She says that it was John's fault that all this happened and drives off with her children. All that remains is for John to search the crashed car for clues, and there he finds a cooler containing vials of antidote. Once again, John has glimpses of the past, where he remembers handing this cooler to the driver of the car and asking to be taken to the army. Along with the cooler is a document signed by John, revealing that his real name is Jonah Cook and that he is a military doctor. In addition, Jonah finds a photo of himself with his wife, Sharon, and the 2 of them had gone on a mission to cure the victims of the experiment that turned them into infected. The memories keep coming back, until seconds later, a car drives towards Jonah. From inside it, Lucas emerges, his infection getting worse and worse, and he sets out to attack the doctor. Jonah tries to explain the whole truth and says that he has come to help him treat his illness. He then takes one of the vials, but before he can use it, Lucas knocks the doctor to the ground and starts squeezing his neck. Left with no choice, Jonah picks up a rock and strikes Lucas on the head, leaving him seriously injured. Because of the blow, he regains consciousness and remembers who Jonah really is, but he can't resist the head wound and falls to the ground, already lifeless. This tragedy reminds the doctor of when he found Lucas and the others in the other house and saved them with doses of the antidote. At that moment, everyone celebrated being safe, but one of the infected, the young woman with the scorpion tattoo, managed to escape from her cell. Because of this, Jonah was forced to eliminate her before she infected anyone else. After this incident, Jonah asked Nathan if he hadn't locked the door where the infected woman was being held, and the guy, who is revealed to be his brother, gets angry because he thinks Jonah is blaming him for it. At the same moment, Nathan, who was on his way back to the mansion, also remembers this and runs to find Jonah. Arriving at the house, He sees Sharon, who now also remembers her memories, and hugs her brother-in-law. The two decide to go after Jonah and flee the place. But in a matter of seconds, the entire mansion is surrounded by infected. Not far from there, Jonah rushes to the mansion and, on the road, he remembers how he ended up in the hole. As he was carrying the body of the young woman with the tattoo, he was attacked by an infected person, who bit his arm and pushed him towards the grave. Luckily, he still had doses of the antidote and used it on himself, but he knew he would lose his memory when he woke up. It was then that he was saved by the girl and joined the group, but like them, he no longer remembered anything. Now that the truth is out, Jonah rushes back to the mansion, but his car runs out of gas in the middle of the road. All he can do is walk the rest of the way, and he has to hurry, because more infected are trying to break into the mansion. Inside, Sharon and Nathan try to shoot them, but their ammunition is almost gone, and in a few minutes, the infected will invade the house. Jonah rushes to save his wife and brother. Then again, the date of the 18th day comes back to him. He realizes that on that day, the military will arrive on the scene to settle the matter, one way or another. As he suspected, it doesn't take long for the army to arrive and finish off the infected, eliminating them all in a few minutes. Nathan is happy about this, as he believes that the 18th day would be a rescue mission for the military to take them back. He then leaves the mansion and heads into the forest asking for help. However, he finds himself surrounded by soldiers, pointing their guns in his direction. Realizing that he has fallen into a trap, Nathan's fate is sealed, as the soldiers have orders to eliminate everyone in order to prevent the infection from spreading. In the distance, he sees Jonah running to save him, but it's too late and the soldiers shoot Nathan, who falls lifeless to the ground. Seconds later, Sharon also arrives on the scene and sees Jonah, who was about to take revenge on the soldiers for the loss of his brother. However, she convinces him to come along, and the two of them head away before the soldiers see them. On the way, Sharon ends up being struck in the back with a blade by none other than the infected woman from the hut. Jonah is then forced to eliminate her with a shot from his gun, but the noise attracts the attention of the soldiers, who run towards him. With Sharon seriously wounded, the doctor carries her in his arms and they both jump into the well to hide from the soldiers. Inside, John uses the medicine on her and himself, so that they become unconscious and disguise themselves among the other bodies. Before they fall asleep, Sharon gives Jonah a message she has written and asks him to read it as soon as he wakes up. Minutes later, they both fall unconscious and the soldiers start throwing the bodies of more infected people, including the young man and his family. Hours pass and Jonah wakes up, remembering nothing and letting Sharon's note fall among the bodies. The message said that Sharon had remembered everything minutes before the infected attacked. She and Jonah were doctors who wanted to find a cure for the laboratory-created infection that had wiped out dozens of people over the last few days. This cure was only possible thanks to the blood of the speechless girl, as she is immune to the pathogen. Sharon then says goodbye in the message, saying that she loves Jonah and, as her last wish, he must take care of the young girl and find a cure for all the victims. Jonah never managed to read his wife's message, but just as before, the girl pulls him out of the open grave, throwing a rope towards him. With the two of them safe, they look at the pile of bodies around the area, one of which is Sharon's, who didn't resist her injury. Soon, the doctor will have his memories back and will have to choose between escaping that nightmare or fulfilling his late wife's last wish. So what did you think of this movie? Leave it in the comments below. And if you liked the video, like and subscribe for more movie recaps. See you next time.